So here would be the Holy Bible in the 1611 edition. 1611 edition does not, but it is produced by Thomas Nelson Publishers of Nashville. And you will have the actual 1611 King James Bible with, of course, these all very important side notes here on the columns. Within this is one of the most important things that I have use of is the translator to the reader. And this is going to be right in front of this book. I myself took those translations out right here of the Bible there and put them into a printer so it'll be a little easier to read. And that is your 1611 King James. And this other one is going to be the King James as well. And here's the Interlinear Greek Hebrew English Bible. This is the ISBN number right here. And if you type in these numbers or do this search, you can get this 4-volume set here. Typically, they're in pristine condition when you purchase them, even if they're used, because they're not used very much. I think here's just a little part here. You can read a little bit about it if you're interested, of course. And within there, what I want to do is give you a little overview of the numbering systems in here for the Matthew 24 that I had just read a little bit about. And here's that one stone upon another. I know that's a big issue for a lot of people. So these are all your Strong's Concordance numbers, indicating it's going to be pulverized utterly. There will be not one stone upon another. But when you do this and you take these apart, you'll find the same thing. And what these are is these are going to be the Strong's Concordance numbers on top. This is going to be the actual wording. And this here is a transliteration of that actual word. One other part about this, if you do get these types of, this set of Bibles, is that you definitely want to make sure that you get this specific copyright right there, that 1890 James Strong. The ISBN number is going to be right down here. International Standard Book Number is what that means. One's going to be indexed, one's going to be regular. This is the ISBN number I highly recommend getting. They change these words all the time. And if you look even in the prefaces of many of the books, you're going to find the same exact thing, how these things are changed. Okay, thank you. This is going to be a little more specific to the number 4 being used the first time or some of the first times in the Old Testament. This here is going to be associated with the Revelation 7. Yes, the Revelation 7 here. And the word 4 that was being used at the beginning. That number 4 there. So when that's used in the first time, the first occurrence, of course, is going to be in Genesis. And it will also show that in the New Englishman's Lexicon of the Hebrew is also going to indicate the same thing, that this was the first time that 4 was used. And a little more specifically about the creation. A little closer to it, you can see the word end here. And that is a figurative speech of a polysyndeton, which in the 34 verses of this introduction, each one of 102 separate acts are emphasized. And the important word of God in verse 1 is carried like a lamp through the whole of this introduction. So to look at the polyscendent in here that's here on the word and is Appendix 6. Or many adds, Genesis 22, 9, 11, Joshua 7, 24. The repetition of the word and at the beginning of successive clauses, each one is independent, important, and emphatic, with no climax at the end. Compare these two words in Luke, and that's a slightly different one. So with this polyscendent, I must find myself back to Genesis to apply that. And it should read, and the world that then was became formless and void, tuhu, key word here, became, and the world that then was became, and tuhu, or void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God, Elohim, moved upon the face of the waters. That should read again right here, not verse. That whole verse should be right here on end. These are drawn out so that we can apply those as we move along. So during the creation of that time, you will run into these two. One is formed and one is created. And I wanted to pull out some of the first things that the number 4 or fourth was used. This is part of the creation. And it reads, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament, visible arch of the sky, in the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of heaven, and to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God, Elohim, made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. The moon doesn't make light, it reflects light. So the stars are the other part of the light. Okay, and God said to them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, very good. So what that means, extremely good. And the evening and the morning were the 4th day. I have restoration to prepare the second age, yes. So that was the number 4. The part in the Hebrew here, I have first time that the wording 4 is used is Genesis 2:10. The river that fed the Garden of Eden, or through the Garden of Eden, and from there it was parted into 4 rivers after, I believe, it left Eden or was fed by Eden. Yeah, the four weather rivers, basically. So this is Genesis 2:10. And the river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted, right, and became into 4 heads. This is a part of the first beginnings of the wording used for and fourth. And we're in Matthew 15, more specific to 1538, the first time the number 4 in this context was used. And I'm just going to briefly go over the top, overview it. Then came Jesus to the scribes. The first address and Pharisees were to them which were of Jerusalem, saying, Why did thy disciples transgress the traditions of men, or the elders? For they not wash their hands when they eat bread? Practice of some ceremonial washings, men's law is not God's law. He answered unto them, why do you also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition? Yeah, okay. Getting a little sidetracked, but keeping it in context here. So Christ called the multitude, hear and understand. Not that which goeth into the mouth defile a man, but that which cometh out of the mouth is what defiles the man. And his disciples came and said to him, knowest now that the Pharisees were offended after they heard this saying? Yeah, they got mad. So what's new, right? But he answered and said, every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. Let them alone. Who? Scribes and Pharisees. They be blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into a ditch. So here's Peter. I believe he is the first church builder. Then answered Peter and said unto him, declare unto us this parable. Jesus said, Are you also yet without understanding? Do not you understand that whatsoever enter in a man at the mouth goes into his belly and cast out into the drough? But those things which proceedeth out of a mouth come forth from the heart. They defile the man. The 666 does, basically. For out of the mind or the heart proceeds evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, blasphemies. These are the things which defile a man. But to eat with the unwashed hands, it doesn't hurt you. Okay, synonymous words used for man. The appendix 14 of the Companion Bible. And this reads, there are 4 principal Hebrew words rendered man, and these must be carefully discriminated. Every occurrence is noted in the margin of the Companion Bible. They represent him from 4 different points of view, or words. Adam denotes his origin as being made from the dust of the Adamah, ground. I'm not so big on Latin, but it means homo, right here. Ish, or has regard to sex, a male, Latin, ver. Enosh has regard to his infirmities as physically mortal, and as to character, incurable. Geber has respect to his strength, a mighty man. Adam without the article denotes man or mankind in general, followed by a plural noun, which the article it denotes, the man, Adam, though rendered man. After this, the Hebrew Adam, man, or men, is used of the descendants of Adam, hence Christ is called the son of Adam, not a son of Enosh, with the particle F right here. In addition to the article, it is very emphatic, and it means self, every, this same, this very. See Genesis 2:7 for the first occurrence. Rendered in this Septuagint, anthropos, 411 times, aner, 18 times, 15 in Proverbs, once thenos, Proverbs 20:24, dying, 4 times, brotos, which means mortal, all in Job. Okay. Number 2, ish, first occurrence in feminine, Genesis 2:23, ish-ha equals woman, therefore Ishmael or husband, a man in contrast with a woman, a great man in contrast with ordinary men. Psalms 49:2, where low are called the children of Adam, and high the children of Ish. It gives you examples in Psalms and Isaiah. When God is spoken of as a man, it is Ish, So Joshua 5:13, Daniel, Zechariah, also in such expressions as man of God, man of understanding, and so on. In the early chapters of Genesis, we have it in chapters 3:22, 24, and 4:1. Translated in Septuagint 1083 times by Aner, Latin ver, or only 450 times anthropos, Latin homo. It is rendered husband 69 times, person 12 times, and once or twice, each in 39 different ways. Number 3, Enosh occurs in Genesis 6:4, men of name, always in a bad sense. Isaiah judges morally equals depraved, and physically equals frail or weak. It is from Enosh to be sick, wretched, weak, and denotes inability for strength physically and for good morally. Note the contrast in Isaiah 2:11 and 17. The lofty looks of man Adam shall be humbled, and the haughtiness of men Enosh shall be bowed down. Other instructive passages are Isaiah, Ezekiel, afflicted or mourners, day of man, and Samuel, 1 Samuel 4:9. It is probably plural of ish, so probably Genesis 18 and 19, where the indefinite plural must be interpreted by the context, because Adam would have denoted human as ish males. It is rendered man 518 times, certain 11 times, and only once or twice, each in 24 other and different ways. Number 4, Geber. First occurrence in Genesis 6:4, mighty men. And here's a little note on that. Genesis 6:4, we have 3 out of the above 4 words. Daughter of men, daughters of the man Adam, mighty men Geber, men of renown, Hebrews men Enosh, men of name, for instance, renowned for their moral depravity. And denotes in respect of his physical strength as Enosh does in respect of the depravity of his nature. It is rendered man 67 times, mighty twice, man-child once, every one once, in the Septuagint rendered 14 times, anthropos, and the rest by Aner. For illustrative passages, see Exodus 10:11, 12:37, etc. In 5, methem, plural, adults as distinguished from children, and males as distinguished from females, occurs in these passages. And then Jesus called his disciples unto him and said, I have compassion on the multitude, because they continue with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat, and I will not send them away fasting or hungry, lest they faint in the way. And his disciples said unto him, the disciplined ones, Whence should we have so much bread in the wilderness as to fill such a great multitude? Jesus said unto them, How many loaves have ye have? And they said, 7, and a few little fishes. And he commanded the multitude to sit down on the ground. And he took the 7 loaves of the fishes and the 7 fishes, and gave thanks, and brake them, and gave to his disciples, and the disciples to the multitudes. And they did all eat, and were filled, and they took up of the broken meat that was left 7 baskets full. And they did eat were 4,000 men and children. So the children and the women weren't counted. And then he sent them away, the multitude, and took a ship, came into the coast of Magdala. And that is the First time 4 was used in the New Testament that I can find so far. And as you can see, it comes from the number, it started out as the number 4 in the Hebrew for the rivers in Eden. And also it changed into 4,000. So I find that a little interesting how it was just 4 and then up to 4,000. The usage of Ruach, Spirit. This is from the Companion Bible and the appendix of Companion Bible. This kind of gives us a general idea. Okay, and it reads, let's see my pen here. The word Ruach occurs 389 times in the Hebrew Old Testament. In the Authorized Version is rendered Spirit 237 passages. And no other word is rendered Spirit except for neshama, breath, in Job 26:4 and Proverbs 20:27. See Appendix 16. We would have to go to Appendix 16 to find that out. And it continues. In the remaining 152 places, it is translated in 22 different ways, which are to be carefully distinguished. In the Revised Version, Ruach is rendered 224 times, and in the remaining 165 passages rendered in many different ways. The meaning of the word is to be deduced only from its usage. The word idea running through all the passages is invisible force. This force may be exerted in various forms or varying forms and may be manifested in diverse ways or different ways, many different ways. Continuing, so various renderings are necessitated corresponding thereto. Ruach, in whatever sense it is used, always represents that which is invisible except by its manifestations. These are seen both externally to man as well as internally within man. As coming from God, it is invisible origin of life. All apart from this is death. Comes from God and returns to God. Hence, Ruach is used of 1, God as being invisible, the Spirit of Yahweh, is Yahweh himself, is his manifestation of invisible power. And then there's the examples of some of them. And number 2, the Holy Spirit, the third person of the Trinity. Number 3, invisible divine power manifesting itself. This goes into the creation, the giving life, and executing judgment. And there's that blast and breath that we're looking at in some areas. The other one is invisible. Power from on high, manifesting itself as divine power in giving spiritual gifts spoken of as coming upon clothing, falling on, and being poured out. Rendered spirit, but should be spirit. Continuing, here are all the examples of that, the Ruach Spirit used in that form. Here's the other one here, the invisible part of man, psychological. Keep that in mind, psychological. Given by God at man's formation at birth, and returning to God at his death. Breath is here again, and spirit is here some other examples, and wind is Ezekiel. Number 5, the invisible characteristics of man manifesting themselves in states of mind and feeling by the figurative metonymy. See Appendix 611 for that figure of speech meaning. The English words used are man, breath, courage, anger, blast, spirit, and here are the examples of such. Number 7, put by the figurative syndoche, I believe that's how you pronounce it, for the whole person. And then you see Appendix 6 for this meaning, Sindoshe is how I say it, Appendix 6. And gives you those examples. Number 8, invisible spirit beings, angels, cherubim. And it goes on. Natural spirit beings. That gives you examples there. And number 9, the invisible manifestation of the atmosphere. Temperature, air, wind or winds in every place where the words wind or winds occur. Whirly, windy, spirits, air, tempest, blast, quarters, side, or sides. And those are the English words that are used pertaining to number 9 here, manifestations of the atmosphere. Top of chapter 7 of Revelation, the spiritually dead of the world will be at least given the opportunity before they are loosed. That would be the fallen angels and Satan. And it reads, and after these things I saw, which I have Ezekiel 37 and Daniel 7 at least here. I saw 4 angels. Angels, I have winds, or ruach, you could say. I haven't thoroughly done this part, angels here, and I think I'm going to look that angel up, the word angel, Revelation 7. From 71, comparative 34, to bring tidings. Okay, so angels in 7:1, foot of 7:1. I write down angels here. Probably derived from 71, comparative 34, to bring tidings, a messenger. Messenger, especially an angel, by implying pastor. Especially an angel, by implying a pastor. Especially an angel. Thus, pastor will drive the sheep with the staff, basically, reflexively to go, specifically to pass time, or figuratively to induce. Reflexively, specifically pass time. Pass. Or figuratively induce. Or figuratively induce. Comparative 34, from 71, comparative 32, a drove. So I'm going to look up the word drove. And here's the definition for drove. Implying to drive, drove. To dress with a broad-edged chisel, set of stonework, and usually in the past participle, drive. Dressed by cutting grooves deep by a chisel, leaving a drove space between them. To drive as cows for a distance, work. To make anxious, become uneasy. Okay, that's it right there. A number of animals or cattle driven by the body or collected for driving. Moving crowd of human beings, particularly when impelled by common force or influence, as to pastor, angel, and that's where we're at, as an angel. So these winds, even in 32, angelos. So angelos in 32, angelos 32, I'll go into this Strong's Concordance. There's Greek English Lexicon 32. We'll see what we can find here. A messenger, envoy, one who is sent. In the scripture, both the Old and New Testament, and of the New, one of that host of heavenly spirits that, according to alike to Judean and Christian opinion, wait upon the monarch of the universe, are sent by him to the earth, now execute his purpose. And this is the same word angels and angelos and Revelation 7:1, and to bring tidings, a messenger, especially an angel, by implying a pastor. So this again gives you an overview of all of the usages of this word angel in the Greek, and that should clear things up a little bit more. A messenger, an envoy, one who's sent, okay? And in number 2, in the scriptures, both the Old Testament and the New, one of that host of heavenly spirits that, according alike to Jewish and Christian opinion, wait upon the monarch of the universe, and are sent by him to the earth, now to execute his purposes. And here's another one, now to make them known to men. Hence, the frequent expression, angel, messenger of God, and they are subject not only to God, but also to Christ, who is described hereafter to return to judgment surrounded by a multitude of them as servants and attendants. Single angels have charge of separate elements as fire, water. Now we kind of see a little more of a elementary here, kind of in charge of elements in a way. Guardian angels of individuals are mentioned in these areas, Matthew, Acts. The angels of the churches, which is going to be in Revelation, other areas. The angels of the churches are not their presbyters or bishops, but heavenly spirits who exercise such a superintendence and guardianship over them that whatever in their assemblies is worthy of praise or censure is counted to the praise or blame of their angels also, as though the latter infused their spirit into the assemblies. And now here's another part which explains this Greek wording here. That she may show reverence for the angels, invisibly present in the religious assemblies of Christians, and not displease them. Okay? And in Timothy, it's just a reference to Timothy 3:16, is probably to be explained neither of angels to whom Christ exhibited himself in heaven, nor of demons triumphed over by him in the netherworld, but of the apostles, his messengers, to whom he appeared after his resurrection. This appellation, which is certainly extraordinary, is easily understood from the nature of the hymn from which the passage here seems to have been taken. Angels are employed by a beautiful image borrowed from Genesis 28:12, to represent the divine power that will aid Jesus in the discharge of his messianic office, and the signal proofs to appear in his history of divine superintendence. Certain of the angels have proved faithless to the trust committed to them by God, and have given themselves up to sin. So here's Jude and 2 Peter. And now obey the devil. So we can see that some of the angels or spirits are evil. Okay. Yet on this last passage, see also Meyer, it's a writer, he and others maintain that without an epithet or limitation, never in the New Testament, signifies other than good angels. So there are other, good and bad angels. Hence is trope. Well, I'm going to skip that part, which is going to denote a grievous bodily malady sent by Satan. To the reference they're given. And then there's going to be some other reference works. Now going to 71, which is going to give you a little more information on this particular wording, angels, but I'm doing this in a large overview for most all of the usage of this word angel. In the word 32 is from 71, and this has to do with the word angels in Revelation 7:1. This is more of an overview of the entire usage of it, more than a specific part of it. All of it's pertinent, though, to that application, which is to lead or to drive. It's properly to bring, to lead by laying hold of, and in this way to bring to the point of destination. This word of animal is probably just contained within Matthew 11:7, and sheep or whichever animal is used there. And I'm just going to go to lead by, right here, to lead by accompanying to or into any place. And continuing a dative, a person to whom, and here, to lead with oneself, attached to oneself as an attendant. So we do receive those types of spirits. Some refer to his head, resolving it, but incorrectly, as above. And as above is where we see by leading or accompanying into a place. Okay, and here's where it's to lead away to a court of justice, like as a magistrate, or simply of punishment. And tropically, to lead, guide, direct, to lead through, conduct to something, become the author of good or of evil to someone. So one is to move, impel, of force and influences affecting the mind. It has a psychological, I want to say, connotation. And it's here is simply urged on by blind impulse. Unless impelled by Satan's influence, be preferable. There's a type of a choice here to what we wish to receive. And here's another, to pass a day, keep or celebrate a feast, etc. These days and times and seasons are set by the stars, though, by the way, not. Still others, as been personal, one passes. And intransitive, I think that's what the intransitive is right there. To go or to depart, with the accusation of place, this here, And that is about the end part of what the word angels are. Properly, a leading, figuratively. Transitive, a conducting, training, education, discipline. Intransitive, the life-led way or course of life. A use which arose from the fuller expression. Now, these angels, okay, by the way, these four angels, this would be world and creation. These angels standing on the four corners, and 1137 and four corners, 1137. And I don't think I have the 1137 looked up. So 1137. An angel. So 1137. On these four corners, 1137. Understand how I'm going to have to look up the word corners because I don't know if that 1137 here is corners here, 1137. Standing on the four corners, 1137. Yep, it is right, 1137. Akin to 1119. 1119. I believe that's akin. Yes, probably akin to 1119. Affinity, the knee. Of uncertain affinity, the knee. So the four corners of the knee, which thus says prayer, and when one is on the knee and is in prayer, something pushes them and causes one to go on your knees, not by force, but by probably great distresses of some kind. So here's a little bit more about the 1137. I misspoke and said angel, but it means angle. For instance, an external angle, corner. That's from a German word, and it has the references there. And it also has a Hebrew link right here. So, and I think that's Psalms 67 and 68, it looks like. And this reads here, the head of the corner, for instance, the cornerstone. And we have this for the four extreme limits of the earth. And that's where that's Revelation 7:1 is, right here. And this is like the internal corner, a secret place. This comes from a 1119. 1119 right here. That is where it's from. I believe that's from, or comparative. Nevertheless, Hebrews 11, and it looks like to bend the knee, kneel down, of persons supplicating, also as worshippers. So also of Luke, of a supplant in, to bow the knee of those worshiping God or Christ. And this is a figure of speech, I know, is humility, because that is not a requirement to speak with God or to pray to God. That's not something that is necessary, but it does say knee and in prayer. Goes to their knees because something causes that distress, so much so that it creates that. Thus, you have very sincere and honest prayer from that point, but this being angels, winds, and a pastor, messenger, especially an angel, to drive, reflexively go, specifically pass or time, to induce or drove, as one is led. 1137, and I will put this in here. It's 1137. So 1137, corners, verse 1, corners. An angel of certain common origin, ni, note, used with the number 4 word creation. Okay. Yep, okay. So, and these 4, world and creation, these angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds, which I have rock here, of the earth, this earth, that the Ruach, or wind, should not blow upon the earth, nor upon the sea, nor on any tree. Peoples or large fluid body driven by wind and or the current, person rooted in the earth, right? That would be a person here on the earth. Should not blow. The word "and," some texts omit that, and after these things I saw appendix 133.1.1 and 1 to see, by implying not to the mere act of looking, but the actual perception of the object, thus differing from blepo, number 5 above. So it's in a perception, perceived, seen by perception. And I saw, and I'm going to write perception or perceive. I think I'll write perceive. Perceive. Holding, that word holding, the 4 winds. And I'm going to just use the Companion Bible again to see what holding here has. Holding right there. Hold fast. So, right, hold fast here under holding. And then I'm going to look that word up too, that GH. And this is for the word holding in Revelation 7:1. The word holding. It's kratos, strength as exerted, power put forth with effect and in government, from which we have the English theocracy, government by God, aristocracy, government by the best, democracy, government by the people. And it shouldn't be democracy, it should be republic, in my opinion. The Greek word here, ekrataya, mastery over oneself, which means self-control, or having oneself reined in, from krateia, which is to rein in from, which means a rein. This ekrataya, okay, the word ekrataya here, is the only word rendered temperance and occurs only in Acts. This on top of the definition that I have on the word holding. That's what this particularly means. So, holding 7:1, 29:02. Write 29:02 here. That arrow is just going to indicate that I've done the definition when I read it. So 7:1 holding, 29:02. 29:02 in Greek. To use strength, retain, or retain, literally or figuratively. Literal, figurative. Okay. And the English word would be holding. I am going to read through this a little bit here. To have power, be powerful, to be chief, a master of, or to rule, to be ruler of one, to take one by the hand, to hold one fast in order not to be sent away, to embrace one's knees, to lay hold of mentally, see also, catch at, but also refers to this, to lay a hold of, and to take or to seize, to lay the hands on one in order to get him into one's power. And I am looking for the revelation mark on here. To hold, for instance, to hold in the hand. Revelation 2:1. To hold fast, for instance, trop. Not to discard or let go. To keep carefully and faithfully. And I think we should run into to keep faithfully one's authority. Looking for that Revelation 7. Also with the genitive of the thing of blessings in which different individuals are, once more. And in Revelation 2, see also with the genitive, the thing of blessings in which different individuals are participants. To continue to hold, to retain, of death, continuing to hold one, passively, to retain sins, not to remit, to hold in check, restrain. There's our Revelation 7:1 right there. So we can apply that to hold in check and to restrain. The constructive of this verb with the genitive and accusative. See also another wordings of that. So with this holding, as you go back up through the definitions which we have read, will help complete its definition, but that's going to be more complete when one goes through all of the wordings and how they apply. The earth, holding, the word we just looked up. The word holding here is seize, retain, and to use strength. These four winds, the ruach of the earth, that the ruach. Now, these angels have strength. They're put in a position, knee, implying knee as well, or being on the knee. This a type of a prayer or an oppression, or pushed down for those purposes, or because of. Yes, I think it has an action behind this as well, the winds. Yes, as a messenger, pastor, to lead. And we're going to continue on when we get to 2 here. This should not. It's I want to say it's absolute negation. To blow upon the earth, nor by the sea or any of the tree. If the people's fluid, people's large fluid body driven by wind and current, person of the earth, tree, or any tree, there. And I saw another angel of the same kind, ascending from the east, Christ, or Christian, mm, having that motion, as Christ did, Christ-like, Christian people, descending from the east, which would be coming from above down, having the seal in the mind, is what I have here in 9:4, of the living God, which is the Word, His Word, nobody else's but His. And He, who is He, another angel of that same kind standing on the earth in the four corners, holding or hold fast those four winds, the second from that east, from that place, Christian, having the seal of the living God in his mind, cried. And this will be the Revelation 7:2 again, from the word cried, 2896, which is right here, 2896. Going down, we can read a lot more about the definition of that, but more to this particular meaning. And I am going to start at about where it says, of those who utter or teach a thing publicly and solemnly, and of those who offer earnest importance prayers to God, followed by the direct discourse, which will be the Revelation 7:2. There is also some indications here where 2896 is in the Greek. And 96. 2896 in the Strong's Concordance has it as to croak, as a raven, or to scream, for instance, generally to call aloud, shriek, exclaim, entreat. So that would be that cry to the four angels. With a loud voice unto the four angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth, and the sea, and the people, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, or the people is what sea symbolizes, nor the tree, till. And this word till, we have sealed the servants of our God in their forehead. If it's your brain, that's what's inside of your forehead. 891 till, which is through the idea of terminus, which is a final part or goal of time, or until, or place, up to, akin to 206, which is the point of extremity. So it's the purpose of Christ that we be sealed by His word, not anything else. And saying, do not hurt the earth, neither the sea or the people, until that time have been sealed, the servant of our God, in the forehead, not until the counsel is learned from His word. Then we are prepared for the fake one to come. And I heard a number of them, which were sealed, which has God's word, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. We're just going to focus on the sealed here a little bit. Sealed, from the prime root, 5424, to rein or curb, the mind, riff. The center is the portion of body, figuratively and by implication of sympathy. The feelings or sensitive nature by extension, also in the plural. The mind or cognitive faculties, understanding, 5420, apparently a strength to fence or enclose, for instance, specifically to block up, figuratively silence, stop. 4973, under the same term sealed, a signet or a sign a stamp, as fencing in or protecting from misappropriation, dishonest use, by implying the stamp impressed as a mark of privacy or genuineness, literally or figuratively, a seal. 4972. To stamp with a signet or private mark for security or preservation, literally or figuratively, by implying to keep secret, attest, to declare to be true or genuine, to serve as proof of, set to, seal up, just as it is to be protected, and that is why a private letter is sealed, is to keep in silence. So this sealing is something that is the word that gets put in. It's protected because it can't be taken out or ripped out of one's person. Without going too far into my opinions, but just sticking with the actual word and the definitions of them, that seal is pretty profound. It can't be taken away or changed. And it also means the mind or cognitive faculties. So it's not a belief. It's a factual, provable, honest, exact wording or representation of God's word, rather than an opinion. A priest or this angel standing in the corners, for the sake of these sealed, and these being on their knees or knee, as the word corner implies, they're going to hold this fast, this intent. Christ comes as Christian, we ascending from that east, having that seal. Christ has that seal. Christians should have God's word as a seal. This is where the word until, don't harm, don't release the Sururach, until we have sealed the servants of our God in their forehead, and that's even in the English, in their forehead. So another section, Matthew, Mark, I want to say it's 24, yeah. Who or what? The vials, trump, seal, 666. Seal 1 plus 5 is 6. I don't want to get it to the 7 events which must transpire before the true Messiah returns and are given in this first part of this chapter. Revelation 7, the events, the 3 days prior to the return of the Messiah. And Jesus said unto them, Christ said unto them, see ye not all these things? Question mark. And that's emphatic. No, the verily is emphatically. See you not all these things? It did not happen at 70 AD. The western wall was left intact, along with the majority of other things. So there, 70 AD is when apparently the temple was torn down, but every stone, no stone unturned, every stone, all the way to the little pebbles, the entire western wall was left. So that wasn't actually destroyed in that time. My opinion, you could say. With that destruction of the temple, which wasn't the destruction of the temple, it's before the destruction of the temple, it hasn't happened yet. Verily I say unto you that there shall not be one stone left upon another that shall not be thrown down. The entire western wall, the western wall was intact. So it hasn't happened yet. This stops and then it goes on. It picks back up as he sat on the Mount of Olives. The disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall the signs of thy coming of the end of the world? So Christ sat on the Mount of Olives. Disciples came unto him privately, and I'm going to look at the companion Bible to see if it has anything in there. including its alteration to approach, literally to come near. (2064) Supplied by a kindred mind. Forward to or towards. By the side of or near to, which is the destination. By the side of, usually with the accusative to place, time, occasion, or respect, which is the destination of the relation. Which is the destination of the relation. It's adjoining. What it is joined to. Sat on the mountain, the Mount of Olives. The disciples came unto him, which is the approach, literally to come near, to visit, or to worship, assent. Supplied by a kindred mind. Supplied by a kindred mind. Forward to, by the side of respect, which is the destination of the relation. Came unto him privately. The word privately here. Uh, 2596. Prime participle. Preparation down in place or time in varied relations according to the case, genitive, dative, or accusative, with which it is joined, about or according to. Of uncertain affinity pertaining to self, by implying private or separate, by implying private or separate. Saying, tell us when these things shall be, and what shall be the signs of thy coming. Priesthood, coming, a king to take over the earth, the arrival of the king. The end of this dispensation, the close of age, and that is attached to off, away, hereafter, or because of, by the space of, from, in or out of, upon separation, to send, to go, to lay aside, leave, and to let alone, or to omit, to fall, to fail, omit, to fail, to take no notice, to send away, to loosen down, disintegrate, demolish. The word thrown about these stones, demolish, to halt, stop, to not, dissolved, overthrown, or down, or pertaining to the touching down of, exceedingly beyond measure throughout, every uttermost, a dissolving or being dissolved, to break up into, disintegration by implying as, lodging place, or loosen, to break, or dissolve, melt, something torn in a fragment, into small pieces. There shall not be a stone thrown down, pulverized utterly, okay? So we go privately, that is private, one mindset of the same pertaining to self, one pertaining to self, one's own, and to come down, to approach, or to come near, or to visit, or to worship, assent supplied by a kindred mind, forward to, by the side of respect, which is the destination of the relation, came unto them privately in a private way for one's own, by implying private or separate, what is joined together. When shall these be? To his disciples, that same disciplined ones, take heed. When shall these coming of this world here, end of dispensation, close of age, a king, or to take, priesthood 24 times, and Christ answering and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. Overriding the facts is what I have here, and 4105, overriding the facts. And I'm going to look up no man. I should also look up man, deceive you. Deceive 4105, and I'll check 4105 to see if that's correct. Pretty sure it probably is, 4105. Okay. Okay, so here we have this 4105, this word deceive, and that's going to be in 4, and I will write that down, deceive. 4105, properly caused to roam, as abstract, objectionally, or say by fraudulence, subjectively straying from orthodoxy. That orthodoxy might, piety, holiness, to be good. Subjectively, go astray, seduce, err, wander, be out of the way, deceive. Those are the English lexicon that has the same. And 4108 and 4108. Roving as a tramp. Roving as a tramp. Well, I'm going to look up the word tramp. Word tramp here in English, number 1, to tread heavily, march on foot. And number 2, to walk or wander aimlessly as a tramp. We go back to the word tramp in number 1. To walk or traverse with heavy steps, as to tramp the silent street, to tread heavily upon, trample, tread down or underfoot, to travel over a considerable part of on foot. The steps of one who walks heavily and continuously, a heavy continued tread especially of a number of persons or animals, a long stroll or excursion on foot, especially one that tires. So it looks like tires. So here's the other part of that, to crushing it down, used with or upon the act of treading underfoot, a continued crushing tread. Tramp. to put underfoot take heed that no man deceive you. Take heed. Go back to this companion Bible under the take heed and see what I can find as far as that goes. The take heed. 4. Take heed. Appendix 133.1.5. Take heed. Take heed. I'll write that here. Take heed. Blepo. Appendix 133.1.5. Appendix 133.1.5. Appendix 133.1.5. Blepo. To have the power of seeing. To use the eyes to look at. To have the power. To have the power of seeing. To have the power of seeing. To use the eyes to look at. To use the eyes. To use the eyes, used as the act of looking, even though nothing be seen, hence to observe accurately. To observe accurately. To observe accurately. End with desire. End with desire. Used of mental vision. Used of mental vision. And implying more contemplation. Used of, implying more contemplation. And implying more contemplation. And from 8, it'd be just more contemplation than 8, which is horale. It is used of bodily sight and with a special reference to the thought is said to be the object to look at. It differs from number 5 above in the same way number 1 does from number 1 in that it has a regard to the object, while number 1 refers to the subject. 1's used in the future and has to regard to the object presented to the eye, and into the subject which perceives at the same time. It denotes not so much the act of seeing, like number 5 and 8 above, but the state of the condition, the one whose eye the object is presented. But number 5 has more contemplation than haro. It takes much more of a deeper thought. So this is the word take heed. Take very great care, observe, to look carefully, with clear mind and accurately to observe it, and with desire. And that, then with that, take that heed that no man, human being, etc., whoever it may be,
that they deceive you, and this deceive is properly to cause to roam by fraudulence, subjectively, causatively, from safety of the truth or the virtue, and raving as a tramp, to put under foot or to crush. But take heed, be careful, for many shall come in my name, saying that I am Christian, and shall deceive many. I don't know if that word deceive is the same as the other one that I just looked up. So Matthew 24, 4 and 5. 4105, so that's the same word deceive of 4105 again. I am Christian and shall. The word shall is, I don't have the word shall, and shall deceive many, and this deceive by worshiping Antichrist and being prepared for deception by traditions and religion. This is what I have. The deceive is the same deceive as man, because they call themselves Christian, Christ-like, Christ, same. Will deceive, to roam by fraudulence, subjectively, causatively, from safety, truth, or virtue, raving as a tramp. God's word doesn't seem to probably be important to someone, and you can take one's own self-analysis to find out if that's true or not, if you have time or not time. But many will come as Christians and say that. Yet, prior to this, there was the disciples, the disciplined ones who came to Christ because they had of the same kindred spirit, essentially, or have that spirit, that when these disciples came, he answered in this way and said that many will deceive. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, and these shall and wars. See that ye be not troubled, the near of the end. For all of these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, starvation for the world, and pestilence. I have this one, a plague or pest. AIDS, boli, mutated bacteria strains, illnesses, dependent on prescriptions. So these pestilences and these plagues and all of these little strains that I have even wrote down years ago are the same as we see today, and earthquakes. The earthquakes is a 4578, which is a commotion, an agitating terror of fear or concern in different places, and all these are a beginning of birth pains, sorrows, which it says sorrows, but birth pains are more accurate. Impostor. These birth pains and sorrows, impostor, seduce, fraudulence, cause to roam from safety and truth or virtue, roving as a tramp. These birth pains, these are the beginning of those of a new age comprised of religion, the churches of diseased persons with no will to overcome, you see. So these are those beginnings, no will to overcome. As we move along, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, And ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Christian, for saying the truth, for speaking truth, delivered up to the Antichrist, and then will be the truth unspoken. Because all will think that Satan is Christ, but Satan is actually Antichrist. We will be delivered up to Antichrist when that time comes. And then shall many be offended. They will stumble. They shall betray one another and shall hate one another. And Mark 13, Isaiah, or 2 Thessalonians 2:4, Isaiah 8:15 is what I have here. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. The same word deceive, I'm still here, I believe, that the word deceive many should be the same word, I would think. 24:11, deceive, 24:11, same meaning, that same deceive. Properly to cause or to roam, fraudulent, subjectively, causatively, from safety, truth, or virtue, roving as a tramp, to put underfoot and to crush. Okay? So the same word deceive is the same one as that 41:05, 41:05. And because, or account of, iniquity or lawlessness, first to teach other than God's word, and because, or account of the lawlessness, something taught that is not God's word, shall be multiplied. So the word of God and the importance of the literature and tools to use God's word to be above all of that, right? Because of this lawlessness that they do is roving around like a tramp by deception and fraud and lies by these people who claim to be Christian, will deceive. Take heed, be careful, because of this deception, that you put it into one's mind, to have the power to see and to use the eyes to observe accurately and with desire, used of mental vision and implying a more contemplation. This still carries itself through this section all the way probably till the end, because that is take heed of that. So use your mind. And because or account of this lawlessness shall be multiplied, the love of the many shall grow very cold. 55. The love of many shall wax cold. 55:94. 55:94. 55:94. 55:94. Cold. Go to 55:94 in the Greek. 55:94. Prime verb. To breathe. To breathe voluntarily but gently. By implying a reduction of temperature by evaporation. To chill. Cold. The English word cold. Cold-blooded. Condition of having a low temperature as compared with the normal or standard temperature. The lack of heat often spoken of as if it were a material substance. Figuratively, the sensation characterized by lack of enthusiasm or by fear of dejection, the fall,
Disorder usually caused by exposure to cold or damp or to draft.
Wax cold or cold. 5594 from the Thayer's Greek English Lexicon, 5594. To breathe, blow, cool by blowing, passively to be made or to grow cold or cold. Of a warning, love. Love has become cold. Unconditional love has become very cold. So, many shall wax this cold on account of the lawlessness shall be multiplied. The love of the many shall grow very cold. But he that shall endure, that shall have endured, those of the elect, those above who take that heed of the false Christs, false Christians, those deceive, the lawlessness unto the end, the same shall be saved, those who endure of this earth age, of this age and time. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness, God's elect, unto all nations, and then shall the end come. So this here, which I would say would be the millennial time, because period here, there's a change, because when it's preached, this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all of the world for a witness to all nations, and then the end shall come. So tell us when these things shall be. That was the question. It's Christ talking to the disciples, so the time changes. Then shall many be offended, stumble, betray one another. The reason why they would betray one another is to turn their back on them and stab them in the back, essentially. And they shall see the abomination of desolation, the spoken of by Daniel the prophet, 9:27, 12:11, the prophet, standing in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand, observe attentively. Daniel 9:27, for a week of years the main body of the people shall cease the practice of their religion, for half of that equals 70, and a half equals 35, equals Israel and her restoration, hope. Time now, sacrifice offering shall cease, and instead of this shall be an appalling abomination, till finally the appointed doom falls upon the sacrilegious abomination. So here's one to get out of Jerusalem, is where Antichrist will be. Then let them which be in Jerusalem or Judea flee into the mountains, Mount Zion. Let him which is on the housetop, watchman, not come down to take anything out of his house. You're not going anywhere. The end is close. Don't go where they don't go away. They keep watching. There will be no time to pack, time to get up and leave. Don't get sucked into the Satan's deception. It's nearly over. Nothing in this world matters anymore. It's about to become the millennium. Neither let him which is in the field or in the world return back to take his clothes, to pack anything. There's so much woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, which will nurse along Satan's deception, pregnant by Antichrist. The mark of deception. They are here. But pray that your flight not be in the winter, which is going to be out of season, neither on the Sabbath day, Sixth trump, sixth seal, sixth vial, day of rest. 20, Antichrist, from the city of peace, until we are, or whoever shall be delivered up will be delivered up. Christ's bride will be a virgin. His coming back after 2,000 years approximately, and he finds the supposed virgin bride without a wedding dress on, without virginity, and nursing Satan's work. She is and was untrue. They are spiritually pregnant by Antichrist. They are not fit to be Christ's bride. Do not be taken. First, 2 Corinthians 11:3. When Satan shows up, it is out of the season, harvest time, in the summer. The false Christ is coming first to deceive time. The whole earth. Travel was limited on the Sabbath. Those who take rest in Antichrist will not move. Us who rest in God will not move either. The decision is free. It's free will. God gave us love, and He is going to lose some children, and it hurts Him to have to do that. But He wants all to do what they will. For then, Appendix 117.2, be great. For then shall be great tribulation, the hour of deception. 23:47, deception. To crowd with pressure, to rub a rut or worn track. A he-goat, as a gnar, the wound. To creak, to squeak, by analogy. To grate the teeth in frenzy, wild excitement from inflammation of the brain, loss of mental balance or control, especially through rage, grief or pain, paroxysm of madness, distress of a woman in childbirth. So there's your tribulation, such as it was not since the beginning of the world till this time, no, nor ever shall be. Because it's going to be Satan's season, except for the elect, and except those days, except for the elect, and those days should be shortened. Revelation 9, 5 months. There should be no flesh saved, even for the elect. But for the elect's sake, those shall be shortened. Shall be shortened. In 22, the word signs, yes, in 22, should be shortened, say for the elect's sakes in those days, indicated by a mark, especially ceremonial, supernatural, by which mankind will be deceived. Ascribed false prophets and teachers into the demons by miracles, to seduce, if possible, even the elect. Out of many shall only believe if they see signs and miracles. So there's going to be a many that can only believe that by that, and if Satan does create these so-called signs and miracles, if Satan does, then, which he will, many will be deceived. But I got the project. Okay, so that's in 21. Then if any man shall say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe him not. Supernatural entities, fallen angels will probably claim the same thing, same with people who we might know. For there shall arise false Christs, which are false Christians and false prophets, and shall give great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. These great signs, are an indication by a mark, especially ceremonial, supernatural, by which mankind will be deceived, first ascribed to false prophets and teachers and to the demons by miracles to seduce, if possible, even the elect. But many shall only believe Christ or God or Satan, shall only believe if there are signs and miracles and wonders. And the word wonders is a prodigy, extraordinary thing or person or event, especially one out of the course of nature, very prophetic talent of false Christs, prophets to deceive, believing Antichrist is Christ. Behold, I have told you before that about Christ's return. 2 Thessalonians, the entire chapter. For if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, don't go to the desert. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, or the inner room, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Mount Olives. For wheresoever the carcass is dead, something that is dead, there will be eagles. The word eagles should be vultures, not eagles. There shall the vultures be gathered together. That stops at this point, and this goes immediately after that tribulation of those days. Shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars, the fallen angels, all angels, shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. For about a 5-month period, short period, and then shall appear the signs of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds. Look that up, it's 3507, of heaven with power and great glory. Many will be worshiping Satan when Christ comes, and they won't. This is essentially that time when he shall send his angels with great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the 4 winds, those same 4 winds, those 4, shall one end of heaven to the other. Here's a commandment. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch shall have become already tender, and putteth forth his leaves, ye shall know, or get to know, that summer is nigh. So likewise, when ye shall see all of these things, know that Jesus Christ is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all of these things be fulfilled. The heaven and this earth age shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. The day and hour, the very instant of the coming, knoweth no man. No, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. We are to know the season. But as the days of Noah were, so shall be the coming of the Son of Man be. Genesis 6. As for the days that were before the floods, they were eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage with the Nephilim, with the fallen angels, until the day that Noah entered into the ark. Genesis 6, the giants and the flood destroyed the malefactors. And no, not until the flood of lies, came back and took them all away, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Jude 1, 1 through 6. They refused to be born of woman. 1 Corinthians 11:10. The fallen angels will come for us. Then shall, the subject to Satan, then shall 2 be in the field. The one shall be taken by lies, the other left. Keep working. Don't go anywhere. 2 women shall be grinding at the mill. The one shall be taken by lies. The other shall be left. And the one that's left is going to be doing God's work. Watch, therefore, ye know not what hour, time of temptation, your Lord doth come. But I know the season. First comes Antichrist. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known what watch the thief Antichrist would come, he would have and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Many will be broken because of that. Therefore, be ye also ready, for in such an hour of temptation ye think not the Son of Man cometh. Revelation 7:12, the hour of Antichrist. Revelation 11 covers those 3 days of his reign. Those 3 days of his reign, just before the true Messiah comes. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season, not milk? Consume God's word, put God's mark in your mind, put God's mark in your hand. Blessed is the servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Romans 8, learning. That's Romans 8 for about learning Romans 8. Doing is to do or to abide or to continue together with, enlighten the ship, work, tarry, practice, repeat, habitually, to exact the requirements, or to require by those doings. That's what a servant does. Verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. Will be teaching. Our inheritance is the Lord Christ, our Lord Christ. Revelation 20. But if that evil servant, Satan's deceptions, and all of his little buddies, shall say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming. So, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants, and to eat and to drink with the drunken. Become or are lazy, eating, drinking, and giving in marriage with the fallen angels. Spiritualize, drink to intoxication, to intoxicant. And I'll look it up, 3184, briefly. It's inebriated, and actually, just by going by memory, drunken is to be intoxicated, and to be intoxicated is to be insane, and that's to be out of one's sober state of mind. Intoxication, get drunk, 3178. Another form of 3178, 3178 is going to read, apparently a prime word, an intoxicant, by implying intoxication. Okay? Spiritual intoxication and physical. The word and shall begin to smite, to repeated blows, to punish or to defend. Fellow servants, Satan, fellow servants, and to eat and drink. The Lord of that evil servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of. The Antichrist hour is first. Revelation 17:12. And shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. If you do not watch and stay focused, you may end up in big trouble. Satan is very, very intelligent. If people today will trample over each other for a superstar, then how could they withstand a true supernatural angel? Revelation 7 to Matthew. The word help. I have to look that one up. Zechariah. In the 8th month,
In the second year of King Darius, a message from the Eternal came to the prophet Zechariah, son of Berechiah, son of Iddo. Tell him this from the Lord of hosts, turn to me that I may turn to you. Turn to me that I may turn to you. His blessings. And be not like your fathers. This from the Lord of hosts. The Eternal was indignant with your fathers, and the former prophets proclaimed to them this message from the Lord of hosts. Turn back from your evil ways and from your evil deeds, but they would neither listen nor attend to me. The Lord of hosts declares, yet did not my words and the decrees which I charge my servants, the prophets, they did not overtake your fathers till they turned back crying. As the Lord of hosts determined to deal with us in accordance with our ways and deeds, so has he dealt with us. Question. Now your fathers, where are they? Question. But are there not always prophets? Question. On the 24th day of the 11th month, the month of Shabbat, in the second year of King Darius, this message from the Eternal came to the prophet Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo. It was night, and in a dream I saw the man riding on a chestnut horse standing among the myrtle trees in the glen, and behind him riders on the horses, more than one, that were chestnut, black, sorrel, and white. What are these, sir? I asked, and the angel who was talking to me, I will let you see what these are. So the man among the myrtles replied, These are the couriers whom the Eternal has sent to patrol the earth. Whereupon they answered the man who stood among the myrtles, We have patrolled the earth, and the whole earth lies quiet and at peace. Then the angel broke out, O Lord of hosts, how long will it be until thou hast compassion on Jerusalem and on the towns of Judah? For 70 years now thou hast been wroth with them. The Eternal answered the angel who was talking to me, and his words were kindly, reassuring. So the angel who was talking to me said to me, Proclaim this message from the Lord of hosts. I am deeply stirred, on behalf of Jerusalem and Zion. I am deeply wroth with arrogant nations. For while I was slightly angry with Israel, they have pushed my anger for their own evil ends. Therefore, the Lord of hosts declares, I am turning to have compassion on Jerusalem. My house shall be rebuilt within it. The Lord of hosts declares, and the builder shall stretch his line throughout Jerusalem. Proclaim this also from the Lord of hosts, that my towns shall again overflow with prosperity, and the Eternal shall again console Zion, and delight in Jerusalem. I raised my eyes and looked. There were 4 horns. So I asked the angel who was talking to me, What are these? These, he answered, are the horns that routed Judah, which is the line of Yah, Israel, and Jerusalem. Then the Eternal showed me 4 blacksmiths. What have they come to do? I asked, and he replied, Yon horns routed Judah, till it could not raise its head. But these have come to demolish them, to strike down the horns of the nations who raise their horns to rout the land of Judah. Also, to verify this as well, I can go into these 4 winds here. It's going to have reference to Jeremiah 49:36, Daniel 7:2, 8:8, and Daniel 11:4, Zechariah 2:6, and 6:6. This is more specific to these 4 winds. Within these 4 winds, I go into those reference points, verify those reference points are accurate, even if it's from the Bollinger Bible, I will still double check things along the way by the information that I have. Unfortunately, I'm not a scholar, so I can't read the languages. But I do have reference books that will verify the languages that are written, how they're spelt, Strong's exhaustive concordance numbers, as I have that over here, just to show that the information can be proven and double proven and triple proven on many different levels. So what I'm referring to here is in Zechariah. This is going to have a lot to do with the four dynasties, the horses, etc. More so is what I'm looking for is what was spoken about in Zechariah about the four winds. And within this, you will further be referenced to other points of the scriptures to who Zechariah is speaking to. He's speaking specifically about Adu, Zechariah, Berechiah, and the address of that. From this address, from these statements, from these prophecies, it is going to refer somebody that is doing these studies, such as myself. I'm trying to understand as well. I'm a student. So this goes into who are these fathers? Who are these fathers that cause this bursting or enragement within God or the Lord? And what I want to read here is part of that reference is to those who are of these same fathers, who are, in fact, the religious systems. The religious systems back in the day took care of everything from welfare to teaching to war, to helping the needy and the sick and the ill. And what you will find is that these temple or synagogues were the ones that would take over all of the government agencies over the people according to God's word. And within that, you will have a religious system, an economic system. Within that, you will also have a type of a political system. You will also have the education. I think I covered them all: political, education, government, and economic systems. Those were all contained within the synagogues before Christ came. They were broken open, but a little further beyond that is where God was not necessarily the government of Israel. After Moses brought the law down, he found the people worshiping false idols instead of God and waiting for the Lord's instructions. They created their own. God therefore gave Israel divorce, and after that divorce, God was no longer the pure sole government of those who love God. Therefore, what happened is essentially as the functions of those temples of the government agencies were given over to man, and that's because man chose man to govern over man instead of God. And by that, these dynasties, which would be the educational, the economic, the political, and the religious systems, those were taken over by man. Those are essentially the prince of the power of the air, and that is what functions the worldly. Not all of the people in the world, but we are a part of that because we pay our taxes, we vote, we go to the license bureaus to get our license, we go to college or schools to get a piece of paper on our wall, and we pay money to do that, and that gives us our so-called credentials. Although from the time we are born until we get old, we are subject to those dynasties that govern this world, giving us a glimpse into the clay feet of Mystery Babylon, The clay feet are built upon the people who live in this world that actually support the Babylonian system. And if we know it or not, it doesn't make us wicked or evil. It just makes the systems that we are a part of, we have no other choice necessarily by that, because in order to world to function, it has these entities, you could say, of those dynasties operating across the entire world. So when we are done with our education, we're not educated properly from the very beginning. Without going too much further into Mystery Babylon or the secrets of it, or that's what's hidden, it's all there. We can see that by its manifestations from something that is invisible, in Satan being invisible, being the prince of the power of the air. He was so ruthless and wicked, he had to be locked up in heaven, essentially. So this reference is from Matthew 23 through Zechariah under these fathers here. And this also is going to have be affixed to those four winds. But without getting into some of those four winds too far, I just wanted to get a quote about your fathers bursting in ragement, displeased with them. Therefore say unto them, turn to me. Without getting too far into some of this primary study, I just wanted to use the reference to the primary study about who is being addressed here and why. Without getting it too much further into that, I'll go ahead and read some of this, which is known as ado. The word ado here, I have that done, and I'm going to read from that. And if you go into Zechariah, you'll see the word ado here. I don't have this exhausted to its extent, but at least in part. It's more specifically where it's used here. So it's not going to give you the entire etymology of it, or the history of ado, or the functions of ado, or the nation of ado, or all of that is just a part of it. So with ado, just that word ado there is something that is advance, pass, or continue, which is a causative to remove, specifically to bedeck, which is bring an ornament upon, okay? And more specifically, we're talking about what the word your and fathers are addressed here through the reference points that I just aforementioned. So the word your, with many of the definitions and connections done here, which is going to be father, devil, children of the prodigy, enmity between the seed line. One is going to be the murderers. The religious aspect of those is going to be Molech. Hinnon, the valley of Hinnon, or valley of the south, despicable rites for their idolatry. Man kings, child murderers, celebrated Ashtaroth. You can look into Ashtaroth and those rites, and etc. This is some of the birthing of the traditions of men, okay? That's a little further study into those. This is essentially those fathers. This Ashtaroth is a very good study too. But these fathers, this valley, is the bones of the dead, their greatest of all pollution. This is refuse. For their figurative city, it is combustible. Keep in mind under that word combustible, the chaff and the wheat. There's a lot of information behind that. But the chaff is something that can't be used, and it can't be planted, it can't grow. It's without water. It doesn't have water, and then it doesn't corrode. So part of this here that is combustible in that city, in the valley of Gehenna, in the pollution, it's good for nothing except for being consumed into nothing. So this is a refuse, and it shall be consumed by God's consuming fire. These are your fathers. These are the ones who are leaders within those systems, and they know better, but they like the things of this world so much more that it becomes a business for them. Keep that in mind as we read a little into this Matthew 23:33, and in the Matthew 23:33 section here that I had done a long time ago, I think. It must be 15 years ago. Nevertheless, it doesn't really matter. What does matter is what I'm trying to convey is that I had taken a lot of this apart through the the Strong's Concordance, and more specifically a tighter, little better translation by that. I didn't exhaust the entire translation, but some of the key points I did. And I'm going to go ahead and read through this. It's going to be a little bit strong, but what can I do? I can't cover it up. I don't want to whitewash God's word. I truly don't. So, and again, I'm a student. I'm not a scholar. So, and it reads, "You serpents, you offspring of vipers, how can you escape from judgment of condemnation of Gehenna's people, where the fires through which children are passed in the worship of Molech?" And that's a question. How can that be done? I can answer that. You could probably answer that too. Is turn to God and to leave those bad ways behind. Well, they're not going to do it. I guarantee you that. So, because of this, behold, that's an asterismos, I sent the elected ones to give you of the end from my prophets, and in my wisdom they abode with me, because they love his wisdom, and scribes to document for my children, and moved from the immediate center of God's will, these you kill and crucify, and these who have been elect from the immediate motion towards my will, from the center of God's heart, my choice ones, they scourged in my primary reason of rest and continuance in the truth, my sphere of action, passing on to union and fellowship, efficient, emanating light of me, your God. You scourge me, these synagogues, and persecute mine elect. My word, you move in contrast to me, in the cities and in contrast to city. So from city to city, to dwelling place, the word was moved away from that. Who were these city builders? Who is the first city builder? That's a question. So that down on your pressure, it will press and accomplish these just ones, that their blood and murder by your desires to hate your God, that is what they do. They hate God. They hate his word. There is no room for God's word there. These can be commentaries. It's perfectly fine with that. I don't have a problem with that. Okay, so Abel too is a just one that was murdered by your very first offspring, the devil. Cain is the beginning of your bloodline, and you still murder my elect. Zechariah, who is in remembrance of my planned will, was murdered the same way, who spoke of the future events to forewarn my people in my truth. You murder them for your own emanations. Yep. And call yourself Christian, or calling themselves a representative of God. Just take the Spanish Inquisition, for example. That's a good one to go by. You will see that they represented themselves as God or a Christian, but they were not. So, murderers you are of my laws. How do they murder God's law? Is by not giving us his word and his laws. His word is law from beginning to end, not just a specific law, but the law of God contained within the word we don't understand, and go to these ones, those fathers. They are very good salesmen, and they use psychology to do so. So they call themselves something they are not, and that's why the word Christian is used. And call yourself Christians. Murderers you are of my laws. They don't like his word. Murderers of the prophets, and my only begotten Son, and the hope for all to know me. You shall not overcome death for your deeds. They won't, because they won't change their ways. It's too lucrative of a business to be a religious leader, for instance. It's too lucrative of a business to be a crooked government official. It's too lucrative of a business to be a corrupt educator. This goes throughout. We can see that just by seeing the manifestations of what it does, and these are those dynasties. The hidden part of those dynasties are those who are within those dynasties but don't really understand it. So, without going too far in, but giving you a bit of an overview of it, okay, I want to read this one part again. They are the murderers of my laws. They are the murderers of my prophets. My only begotten Son was murdered, tortured and beaten and brutalized. And the hope for all to know me. That's all. That's what it's about. It's the hope for all to know him, to know his word, to understand God. You shall not overcome death for your deeds. For those deeds they cannot. Correct? So, this very displeased, this is part of the definition of displeased, is to crack off, bursting with enragement. This word bursting with enragement is very powerful. It gets into a bit of an unpleasant definition when it's thoroughly exhausted, but it gets the point across. And that's part of the reason why God's word and the languages are so strong and potent, is that emotion is trying to be conveyed in a very, I want to say desperate way, but in a very loving way, where a mother wants to reach her child and prevent him or her from going too far astray. Please look both ways when you cross the street, for instance. That is the motion of love that God has for us. He only wants us to understand him, and when we do understand God and we understand his word, we get a lot clearer understanding of the world we live in, both spiritual and physical, and there is a difference between the two. And I am here in Daniel, and I was referred to here to Daniel 8:8. And this here reads, therefore, the he-goat, which I have is a global guide, or the global guide for the UN, or the One World System, waxed very great, proud. And when he was strong, the great horn, the great proud power of the horn, was broken in pieces. And instead of it came up afterwards 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. Okay, going towards the 4 winds of heaven. And I want to run over here to 8 and see what I have. And the 4 notable ones reads, the 4 notable ones, 702, to squat or lie out flat, specifically in copulation, to be four-sided in all directions, from 2380 to look, stricken appearance, revelation, or by implying a compact. Okay, so we have a compact, we have a unification, these four notable ones. Okay, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, Satan, is what I have here, which waxed exceedingly great, is that what I could say, and grew and became great, towards the south and towards the east and towards the pleasant land. As we have or will be finding out, the east is symbolic from where Christ will come. So, is this Satan's religion here? Satan being the little horn? I would assume so, but that's by assumption or an educated guess. Little horn, Antichrist, horn of small beginnings, Appendix 90, the 1,335 days. Right here. Political crisis connected with the Confederate kingdoms under the sway of the Antichrist. A time of trouble and tribulation, the acceptable year of vengeance. And here I have south as bondage in this usage, east confusion, what would cause Christians or those who represent God confusion. Well, it could be that Satan at this time, at this writing, what it refers to, that it would in fact be Satan standing in the place where he ought not to. Therefore, east could be confusing. Pleasant land means basically the Holy Land, or Israel, which is a pleasant land. And the only direction left is north. That means Satan's seat is in that power, religiously so, taking over the occupation of the four hidden dynasties, essentially, and he will be that golden head. So, reading on from verse 10 of Daniel 8, and it waxed great, that it would be the little horn, grew and became actively proud, very great, even to the host of heavens, as far as the host of heavens of the heaven. And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. And in 10, I will look to see what I have for some notes. And that would be the host of, right here, the host of heaven. But this is the hosts, and it's in two parts. One is just the host, Hebrew, I believe it would be Hebrew, 6635. Mass of persons summoned, especially organized for war, as army. Summoning one's wishes to please, figuratively, hardship, worship. And this host of the heavens, which will be celestial bodies aloft, the arch of the sky, God's children, are the stars of heaven. Not literal stars. Not literal stars. Doesn't imply that necessarily at all, other than by figure of speech. So this word stamped, so this host of heaven, stars of heaven, children of God, okay, and it was cast down of the host of heavens, of the hosts, and of the stars to the ground, which was stamped here, and stamped upon them. And who stamped upon them? The little horn grew proud and took over that which was a pleasant land, causing confusion of the east. So this stamping here is 74:29, which is to tread upon as a potter in walking or abusively. The Brown Driver Briggs has it to bury and conceal a grave, or bury and conceal grave. Horse, tramples, devastators. Horse of war, one of the four horses. One of the functions of the four horses, to satisfy God's anger. Yeah, I would think so. My opinion, though. So, yes, he, Satan, magnified himself, Satan, even to the prince of the hosts, God himself, the creator and ruler of the starry hosts. So Satan is taking that position, and by him, Antichrist, instead of God, instead of Christ. The daily sacrifice was taken, the prayers of the children to God, and the love and attention. This again, the sacrifice, the relationship, and the prayers between his children and God, that connection was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. This is more about those who were deceived, the others who do not become deceived over Satan being Antichrist. Those who know, they will not be, that connection is not going to be broken. Checking on the wording of 73:11 and cast down. 73:11 over here, which is 73:11. To be high or raised, exalted, a cherubim this cherubim, Satan, grew rotten and decayed, lifted oneself up against God, and now Satan has come to this earth to do the same thing. And continuing to the cast down, 79:93, right here. To throw out, down, away, literally or figuratively. Place of prayer, place of law and prophets. And why would that be? Satan acts like Christ, and many will believe it. And 12, and a host was given to him, Satan, the daily sacrifice, those prayers in relationship between God and his children, those who might be deceived or will be, by reason of transgression. And what is that transgression is because they transgressed away from God and his word, and it cast down the truth, the law, and the peoples, etc., to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. So I'll go through this definition, that which was given him, Satan, military host, because we are at war. This is more going to be a spiritual war. And was given, 54:14, to give or put or make with great latitude of application, given into the power of the city of the false king, people given to the hand of a foe that was appointed, which would be Satan, which would war against the prayers and the studies and the learning and the relationship that God and his children love and want. Those who are not prepared for this will worship Satan and believe him to be Christ. Period. Innocently, though, they didn't have an opportunity. This is the importance of the millennial time, too. So, and going back to the 79:93, which I already read, these are future to come. This which is practiced and prospered. We'll read those definitions. 62:13, which is to do or to make. And it did, or to make, and does it with effect, prospered 74:43, and succeeded, prospered to push forward. So we can read this. And it, the little horn, and its purpose, does it with effect, and practices it, and prospers and succeeds. Here in 13. Continuing on 13, that I heard one saint speaking according to another saint, said unto them, how certain the saint which spake, how long shall the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of the desolation to give both the sanctuary and the host be trodden under foot? How long? These are seasons. And he said unto me, unto 2,300 days then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. 66, 63, 2,300 equals death, or 23. And it came to pass when I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought after the meaning. This word meaning, which means to understanding, to separate mentally, or to distinguish. There, behold, asterismos, there stood before me the appearance of a man, Gabriel, Adam. And I heard a man's voice, Gabriel, between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, this man to understand the vision. The same word understand as we just wrote. So he, Gabriel, came near where I stood. When he came, I was afraid. That's awestruck. It's not a fear, it's just the immense beauty of a true angel. And fell upon my face, and he said, Gabriel said unto me, understand, this is the third time it was mentioned, O Son of Man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. These things we just went over, close to the end times. Now as for he, Gabriel, was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep. The word sleep, 7290, is I was stunned, I was stupefied, a stunning effect and awe, more than just asleep. On my face, toward the ground, but he, Gabriel, touched me and set me upright. Okay? Remind you of what God told Job, get up. And he, Gabriel, said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation at the time appointed, the end shall be. Time appointed, 4150, which is a fixed time or season, as conceived for a definite purpose, to fix upon by appointment, and to meet at a stated time to engage for marriage. Okay? The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia, which is a country of Central Asia, skillful in war and beautiful dress, impressive. They also rode white horses in Persia, the eastern country. Now I'm going to stop here at 20. I'm going to this part, media, mediums, middle. From within Babylon they defeated their overlords. Males, Persians united. Persians pure, splendid, simple religion. One duty, no altars or few temples. No images. Splendid mediator. United Nations, unifications of two into one, perhaps. And the rough goat is the king of Greca, and the great horn, Satan, that is between his eyes, is the first king. Now, that being broken, whereas 4 stood in the place thereof, 4 kings, 4 kingdoms, shall stand up out of his nation, but not in his power. Political, economical, education, religious. Those dynasties. That is what comes out from it eventually. And in the later time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance, which is going to be Satan, in understanding dark sentences, shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. God allowed him to have it. And he shall decay or ruin wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall decay or ruin the mighty and the holy people. And through his, Satan's policy, also he shall use deception and fraud to push forward in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart or mind. And peace shall ruin or decay many. He shall also stand up against the Prince of Princes, which is God, which is Christ, our Savior. But he shall be broken without hands or without strength. In the vision of the evening and the morning which were told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days. 2,300 years, 426 equals 1874. I don't know why I have those numbers quite here. And between the morning and the evening is an oblation. It was done away with by Christ, but Antichrist will be showing himself as the oblation. I can look through a few notes that I may have here. He's a one-world system, fallen angels, Antichrist, Ephesians 6:11. The majority of Christians do not have their armor complete, which is in Joshua 23:13. The last time God cleaned the temple, it was the last. It is not our kingdom, it is their kingdom, Satan, saying and doing exactly what they want to hear and to have. All kinds of gifts. He's come with all kinds of wonderful gifts. He will establish a one-world religion, the great apostasy. Now the words of wonderfully, prosper, and practice from verse 24. The word wonderfully is the decay, separate, distinguished by implying to be great and difficult. The word prosper, 67:43. The difficult separation pushes forward. Practice, 62:13, is absolute, with act, with effect, especially with men. Satan will work miracles. Will become proud, just like in the first world age. 2 Thessalonians 2:3-4. This shows Satan's fights. And the 4 hidden dynasties will complete the deception. The 4 hidden dynasties will complete the deception, but that's a little bit prior to Satan arriving. It is ready. It's already here. When Satan shows up, okay, people will be falling over each other to worship him. 2 Thessalonians 2:6, Satan will stand in the holy place. Satan will accomplish through Satan's skills. He will make deceit succeed those who are in his hand, and in his own heart he will lift himself up and be at ease. He shall decay and ruin many also against the ruler of rulers, that is Christ. He shall stand up, but without a hand he shall be broken. And 9:27, Daniel 9:27 is what I have here. Satan completes his deception, the daily oblation. We've read over that. Okay. I think we're finished with this section. Daniel 8, which we referred to through our work as far as the dynasties, the four winds, the Ruach. Here's just a little bit about the addition of the winds, or Ruach, in this particular part. Trying to slowly isolate a little bit of these reference points here. There's many more reference points that deal with this particular wind, especially with the number 4 attached to it as well. From Zechariah, well, we got Zechariah 2:10. It shows it as Zechariah 2:6 though, but in Zechariah 2:6 in the actual, with the interlinears that I have, it has 2:6 over here in verse 10, or the ho-ho right there, which is a very stern warning. I haven't researched that as entirety at all yet, but in 73:11, without getting too sidetracked, 73:11, with those four winds, what this can be seen as something that is more of a constructive definition. And I'll just go through here and read some of that. I took some of the notes and left them in here so I can isolate these the best I can. But in a constructive manner is where you can kind of compile all the evidences as far as the wordings used to get a little better definition of it. And from with this here, with a full statement of all passages, breath of mouth or nostril, breath of his mouth, it says as a mere breath or windy words, as word of command of God, which isn't windy words, of Messianic king, breathing through the nostril in anger, of God, there's another wind, of man, a signal and symbol of life, breath of life, breath or spirit, wind, and under this is wind of heaven, east wind, north wind, sea as an ocean wind, which means west wind. There's a day wind, an evening wind, 4 winds of Jeremiah in 37. This is a little closer to what we're looking at, and that's the quarters. Those quarters are the world. This goes into creation from here to the 4 winds, pushing one back into, from this point, it will go back into Genesis and the Ruach and the wind of God. But that is going to be as far as the creation, adding to creation itself being made by God, by the wind, not particularly exhaustive in this sense, but we see where those 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 of those 4 corners of the wind. See also number B above, which is going to lead us all into the same thing. Compilation of definitions, or compiling definitions, basically. Now we have the 4 quarters, and then we have a storm wind, we have a rushing wind, and wind personified, keeping in mind that, let's see here, quarter of wind, or the side of, east wind, north side, south side, west side, 4 sides. On the sides, here's Jeremiah, breath of air, gas from the womb, for birth, I would say. In Zechariah, here we have the Revised Version, breath, and then 1, remembering that some ruachs, or spirits, are not from God necessarily, not a godly spirit, I would say. One is going to be a vain or empty thing. My life is wind. Stirring for wind, the stirring. Spirit is that which breathes quickly in animation or agitation. Temper, disposition, distinctly as compared with. Spirit, animation, vivacity or vigor. I know this is getting a little into the other definitions over here. Thus far, we get driven back into this page here, which is going to be more of a constructive definition. I can go into this here and find those areas out. So within these, here's more of a compilation of those winds. Wind or spirit, absolutely. And there's our Dan, we're looking at Daniel 7:2. There's our 7:2. That's where part of the construction of this will come from. And by that, you see it, spirit of a man as faculty of knowledge. This, I think, is going to add a little bit more about what these winds are. Quite astounding, actually, really. But there is what I have as far as these four winds are concerned from the Brown Driver Briggs. So maybe if you can put all of that together, and I will try this one more time with just going through the definitions. And constructively, essentially, it's kind of just running through all of the meanings of them and how they're used. A full statement of all passages. Breath of mouth or nostrils, breath of his mouth. Figuratively of a king or of idols. We give idols life by perceiving them to be alive. Psychology. As a mere breath, as words of command of God, of Messianic King, as hard breathing through the nostrils in anger of God, of man, as a sign and symbol of life, breath of life, breath or spirit, wind, wind of heaven. We have east wind, north wind, sea wind, the ocean as a west wind. Keep that in mind. Day wind or evening wind. There's the four winds from Jeremiah and Ezekiel 37. These are the quarters. The quarters will mean the earth. The earth would mean creation. This earth age would mean dispensation. This will all drive itself into that, the creation. Figuratively quarters. And we have our Zechariah 2:10, 6:5 here. There's a stormy wind. These are those winds which the Lord had probably cried out to hold back with these heavy stormy winds. We have a rushing wind, wind personified, and we get right back to the quarters of wind or side, east side, north side, south side, west side, four sides, all sides of this world in creation. We could liken it to the compass. Not necessarily 90-degree angles in any sense of the word thus far at all. So that's, now we have on the sides, breath of air. And we also have something that indicates birth. Going a little further here to finish this up a little bit, revise. We have breath, and we do know that there are good and evil ruachs. Lots of different forms of the ruach as we went through the companion Bible in a simpler way. My life is a wind in Job 7. And we have striving for wind. And number 3, spirit, as that which breathes quickly in animation or agitation, temper or disposition. Further overviewing this a little bit more is the 1110, I think it is here. Let's see. I think I might have lost my page here. 1112, I believe it was. 1412, that's right. Okay. And from here, it's we have our Daniel that we're looking at, and it should be 235 and 7.2. This is a little bit more of a constructive definition. Constructive right here. I could be wrong though, but I think I'm pretty close. I think I'm very close. Wind, Daniel 235 and 7.2. Spirit is one of the main wording of it, of man, and as we know, we have the breath of life as faculty of knowledge. There's a pretty big answer as to these four winds. Not exhaustively at all. There's a lot more to these four winds. But keeping this within the context here, we have our 7307, those four winds. Four means creation. So part of understanding some of these winds is following what happened during creation, how it became so, how all of these dynasties were actually made by the number four in creation as well. And heavens, we're not going to quite get into that portion of it quite yet. The reason being is that, as you can see, just the study of looking up the number four and winds is it can be quite large, but all of it is pertinent to understand it in so many levels. But as one does do their learning and reading and growing in the Word, the more these become clearer. So I hope I'm helping with some of this to try to keep it in the proper context. And we do have the languages here, at least in a decent part, so that it can be verified by God's Word. One thing that I forgot to mention here is this word EMPH, emphatic, or emphasizing, which is going to be emphatic, which is plural constructive of Daniel in this particular area. That spirit of man as faculty of knowledge, to facilitate knowledge, right? Part of this facilitation of knowledge, my opinion, which will be a full statement of all passages, God's Word, breath or mouth, nostrils, breath of His mouth, breath of God's mouth, as in not as in mere breath, not as windy words, but as words of command by God of His kingship. So, God's Word is also the breath of life. Read a Psalms 1:1 from the James Moffat Bible, and it reads, "Happy the man who never goes by the advice of the ungodly, who never takes the sinner's road, nor joins the company of scoffers, but finds his joy in the Eternal's law, poring over it day and night. He is like a tree planted by a stream that bears fruit in due season. With leaves that never fade, whatever he does, he prospers. Not so the ungodly. No, they are like chaff swept away by the wind. When judgments come, the ungodly shall not stand, nor shall the sinner or sinful last in the community of the just. The Eternal cares for the life of the just, but the ungodly life shall perish." Well, thank you for all the time you spent here going through this with me. God bless you all.